The unexpected encounter, the mining station. Kappa-7 drifted through the void like a metal corpse, its hull scarred by micrometeors and the slow decay of abandonment. Emergency lights flickered sporadically through the observation windows, casting eerie shadows across the asteroid field that surrounded it. According to all official records, the station had been evacuated 3 cycles ago when the ore deposits ran dry. No life signs, no active systems, nothing but silence and rust. Zixara moved through the station's corridors like liquid darkness given form. Her obsidian-black armor seemed to absorb light itself, and the neural crown that circled her elongated skull pulsed with soft crimson energy. She was a void stalker of the Netherian Empire, one of only 12 beings in the galaxy to hold such a title. Her presence alone had caused entire fleets to surrender without firing a shot. The mission was simple reconnaissance. Intelligence suggested human rebels had been using abandoned stations as supply caches. Zixara's job was to confirm the location was truly empty, then move on to the next target. She expected to find nothing but echoes and emptiness. The first sign something was wrong came from the atmospheric readings. Oxygen levels were stable, too stable for a dead station. Her thermal sensors detected a faint heat signature 3 levels down, near what the station schematics labeled as the engineering section. Someone was here. Zixara descended through the maintenance shafts, her movements perfectly silent despite her 7-foot frame. Every step was calculated, every breath controlled. She had stalked prey across 17 different worlds, and no quarry had ever detected her approach. The heat signature grew stronger as she moved deeper into the station's bowels. She emerged from a ventilation grate into the main engineering bay and froze. There, sitting cross-legged on the floor beside a dismantled fusion regulator, was a human male. He appeared to be in his early 30s with messy brown hair and grease-stained work coveralls. A portable music player sat beside him, quietly, humming an upbeat melody that seemed completely at odds with their surroundings. The human looked up as she dropped silently from the ceiling. Their eyes met across the dimly lit chamber. Zixara expected fear, panic, perhaps even defiance. Instead, the human blinked once, then smiled. "Oh, hey there," he said, as casually as if she were a neighbor dropping by for coffee. "You're not with station maintenance, are you? Because if you are, I've got some serious complaints about the fusion coupling design." Zixara stared at him, her mind struggling to process what she was witnessing. This was impossible. Humans were supposed to be terrified of her kind. The sight of a void stalker had driven seasoned warriors to madness. Yet this individual sat there looking mildly curious, not afraid. "I am Zixara of the Void," she announced, her voice carrying the harmonic undertones that had made diplomats weep. "Stalker of the Netherian Empire. Your kind flee at the mention of my name." The human tilted his head thoughtfully. "Marcus Reed, station engineer," he replied, wiping his hands on a rag. "Nice to meet you, Zixara. That's a really impressive title, by the way. Must look great on business cards." Zixara's neural crown flared brighter, cycling through confusion algorithms she rarely needed to access. "You are not afraid." "Should I be?" Marcus asked, genuinely curious. He gestured to the scattered components around him. "I mean, you seem pretty intimidating and all, but you haven't actually threatened me yet. Plus, I'm kind of in the middle of something here." "I have ended civilizations," Zixara said, stepping closer. Her armor's surface rippled with contained energy fields. "I am death walking among the stars." Marcus nodded thoughtfully. "That sounds like a tough job. Lots of travel, I imagine. You must see some interesting places." The Void Stalker found herself at a complete loss. In all her years of service to the Empire, no one had ever responded to her presence with casual conversation. She scanned Marcus again, looking for signs of mental instability or hidden weapons. Nothing. He was exactly what he appeared to be, a human engineer fixing a broken machine. "Why are you here?" she asked, falling back on standard interrogation. "Protocols. Station's got good bones," Marcus replied, patting the hull beside him. "Fusion reactors still solid, life support works most of the time, and the rent's unbeatable." Plus, someone needs to keep the automated systems from completely falling apart. These old mining platforms get lonely if you leave them alone too. Long, Zixara processed this information. You live here, alone, for about 8 months now, Marcus confirmed. He picked up a plasma wrench and gestured to the fusion regulator. Found this place during a supply run that went sideways. Pirates shot up my transport, left me drifting. Emergency beacon led me here. Figured I'd stay a while, maybe fix a few things. Your people think you are dead. Marcus shrugged. Probably. But hey, they weren't exactly lining up to rescue me before I disappeared. Sometimes it's easier to start over somewhere nobody knows your name. The casual acceptance in his voice struck something deep in Zixara's consciousness. She knew that feeling, though she had never expected to encounter it in a human. The loneliness of being set apart, of being something others feared rather than understood. You are not concerned that I might kill you, she stated. Well, Marcus said, setting down his tools and looking at her directly. Are you planning to kill me? Zixara considered the question. Her mission parameters were clear. Eliminate any threats to Imperial security. But Marcus hardly seemed threatening. If anything, he was the most non-threatening individual she had ever encountered. I have not decided, she admitted. Fair enough, Marcus replied. Mind if I keep working while you decide? This regulator's been giving me grief for 3 days, and I think I finally figured out what's wrong with it. He turned his attention back to the machinery, apparently content to continue his repairs while a galactic-class predator stood 3 meters away contemplating his death. Zixara watched him work, fascinated despite herself. His movements were precise, economical. He hummed along with his music player, occasionally muttering technical observations to himself. The primary coupling's been installed backwards, he explained without looking up. Probably been that way since they built this place. Amazing it didn't blow up years ago. You speak as if I care about your mechanical difficulties, Zixara said. Don't you? Marcus asked, glancing up with a grin. I mean, you're still here. Could have vaporized me and moved on by now if you were in a hurry. The observation was uncomfortably accurate. Zixara had no logical reason to continue this conversation, yet she found herself reluctant to leave. When was the last time someone had spoken to her without fear or calculation? When had anyone treated her like a person rather than a weapon? Your species is supposed to be more survival-oriented, she said. Oh, I'm plenty survival-oriented, Marcus replied, carefully adjusting a plasma flow regulator. But fear's not always the best survival strategy. Sometimes you've got to roll with whatever life throws at you. Even if life throws you a void stalker? Especially then. Marcus sat back and wiped sweat from his forehead. Look, I figure you're here for a reason. Maybe you're scouting for your empire. Maybe you're hunting someone. Maybe you just got lost. Either way, seems like we're both stuck on this old bucket for the moment. Might as well be civil about it. Zixara felt her neural crown cycling through emotional processing subroutines she had not accessed in years. This human's calm acceptance was more unsettling than any battle she had ever fought. He treated her presence not as a crisis to be managed, but as an interesting development to be accommodated. I do not understand you, she said finally. Marcus laughed, a warm sound that echoed strangely in the engineering bay. Join the club. I've been trying to figure myself out for 32 years now, still working on it. He stood and brushed dust from his coveralls. Hey, you want some coffee? Real stuff, not synthetic. Found a stash in the former station commander's office. Guy had expensive tastes. Zixara stared at him. You are offering me refreshments. Unless you don't drink coffee. I think I've got some tea somewhere, or water if you prefer. The absurdity of the situation finally overwhelmed her. Here she stood, one of the most feared beings in known space, being offered beverages by a lonely engineer who showed absolutely no recognition of how dangerous she was supposed to be. Coffee, she said finally, would be acceptable. Marcus's smile could have powered the station's emergency lighting. Great. Kitchen's this way. Fair warning, though. The artificial gravity's a bit wonky on level 2. Might want to watch your step. As they walked through the corridors together, Zixara reflected on the strangeness of her situation. She had come here expecting to find nothing, or at worst, some frightened rebels to eliminate. Instead, she had discovered something far more puzzling, a human who wasn't afraid of her. She found herself wondering what else about this species she might have misunderstood. Understanding and connection. The coffee was surprisingly good. Zixara held the ceramic mug in her clawed hands, careful not to apply too much pressure. The warmth seeped through her armor's biointerface, a sensation she had not experienced in decades. Across the small table, Marcus sipped his own coffee and hummed contentedly. "So," Marcus said, breaking the comfortable silence, "what's it like being one of the galaxy's most feared warriors? I imagine the job has its perks, but the social life must be pretty limited." Zixara's neural crown flickered with amusement. Subroutines she rarely used. "Most beings do not inquire about my personal life. Most beings probably don't get the chance," Marcus replied with a grin. "I figure if we're sharing coffee, we might as well share stories. Besides, I'm curious. You've got this whole intimidating presence thing down to an art form, but you seem almost lonely." The observation hit closer to home than Zixara cared to admit. She studied Marcus's face, looking for signs of manipulation or hidden agenda. She found only genuine interest and an odd sort of compassion that seemed to be his default setting. "Void stalkers are created, not born," she said finally. "We are taken from our birth clans as children and shaped into weapons. Emotion is considered a weakness. Connection is forbidden." Marcus set down his mug, his expression growing serious. "That sounds awful. What were you like before they changed you?" The question caught Zixara off guard. No one had ever asked about her past, about who she might have been before becoming what she was. The memories were distant, buried beneath layers of conditioning and neural modification, but they were still there. "I remember colors," she said softly. "My homeworld had flowers that changed hue with the seasons. I used to collect them, press them between data tablets. My birth mother said I had an eye for beauty." "What happened to her?" "She was deemed genetically inferior after my selection. Standard protocol." The words came out flat, emotionless, but Marcus seemed to hear something beneath them. "I'm sorry," he said simply. "That must have been hard." Zixara's hands tightened around her mug. "Void stalkers do not experience emotional trauma. We are beyond such weaknesses." "Right," Marcus said gently. "Of course you are." The silence that followed was different from before, not uncomfortable but weighted with understanding. Marcus seemed to sense that she needed space to process, so he busied himself checking the coffee maker's heating element. "What about you?" Zixara asked eventually. "Why do you choose isolation?" Marcus laughed, but there was a bitter edge to it. "Choice is a strong word. Let's just say the universe and I had a disagreement about my career path." "Explain." "I used to work for Titan Corp, one of the big industrial conglomerates. Good job, decent pay, nice apartment on Mars Station. I was part of a team developing more efficient fusion reactors. Clean energy, sustainable power for colony, worlds. I thought I was helping build a better future." Marcus's expression darkened as he continued. "Turns out the company was selling our designs to weapons manufacturers. Those clean energy reactors I was so proud of, they were being converted into ship killers, planet crackers. My work was being used to destroy the very colonies I thought I was helping." Zixara processed this information. "You objected to this misuse." "I tried to blow the whistle. Went to the media, the colonial authority, anyone who would listen. Titan Corp buried the story, buried me along with it. Suddenly I was unemployable, blacklisted across every major corporation in human space. They made sure everyone knew I was a troublemaker, unreliable. So you disappeared." "Best decision I ever made," Marcus said, his mood brightening again. "Out here, I fix things that actually need fixing. No corporate politics, no hidden agendas. Just me, some broken machinery, and all the time in the universe to figure out how to make it work again." Zixara found herself relating to his story more than she expected. They were both exiles in their own way. both cast aside by systems that had created them for specific purposes. The difference was that Marcus had chosen his exile, while hers had been thrust upon her. "Do you ever regret leaving?" she asked. "Every day," Marcus admitted, "but I regret staying longer than I should have even more. Sometimes you have to lose everything to figure out what actually matters." They spent the next few hours working together on various repairs around the station. Marcus showed Zixara how to calibrate atmospheric processors, and she demonstrated some advanced Netherian engineering techniques that made his work considerably easier. Her enhanced strength and precision proved invaluable for handling delicate components, while his intuitive understanding of mechanical systems impressed her more than she cared to admit. "You have an interesting approach to problem-solving," Zixara observed as Marcus jerry-rigged a faulty power coupling using spare parts and sheer ingenuity. "Necessity breeds creativity," Marcus replied, testing the connection. "When you can't afford new parts, you learn to make old ones dance." The Netherian Empire would classify such methods as inefficient. Maybe, but they work, and sometimes that's all that matters. Marcus looked at her curiously. "What would happen if you went back and told them about our conversation? About helping me with repairs?" Zixara's neural crown dimmed slightly. "Fraternization with inferior species is considered contamination. I would be subjected to memory purging and reconditioning." "Sounds unpleasant." "It is designed to be." She paused, considering her next words carefully. "I find I am reluctant to report this encounter." Marcus grinned. "Good thing you're the one writing the report then." Indeed. They were interrupted by a proximity alarm echoing through the station's corridors. Both of them froze as the warning klaxon blared 3 times, then fell silent. Marcus rushed to the nearest console, his fingers flying over the controls. 3 ships incoming fast, he reported, his voice tight with tension. "Imperial configuration, definitely military." Zixara moved beside him, her demeanor shifting instantly from relaxed companion to lethal predator. "Netherian patrol vessels. They are likely searching for me. Are you in trouble with your own people?" "My mission parameters included regular check-ins. I have missed 2 scheduled reports." She studied the scanner display with growing concern. "They will assume I have been compromised or killed. What happens when they find out you're fine? They will want to know why I failed to report. They will investigate this station thoroughly." Zixara's expression grew grim. "They will find evidence of your presence. You will be classified as a security risk." Marcus didn't need to ask what that classification meant. He had heard enough stories about Imperial justice to know it rarely involved trials or second chances. "How long do we have?" he asked. 20 minutes before they reach scanning range. Once they detect life signs aboard this station, they will board and investigate." Marcus was already moving, gathering essential supplies and stuffing them into an emergency kit. "There's an old cargo pod in the auxiliary bay. If I can get it powered up and launched before they arrive, I might be able to slip away in their sensor shadow." The pod has been inactive for months. The startup sequence alone will take 15 minutes, then we better get started. They raced through the station's corridors, Zixara's longer stride keeping pace with Marcus's urgent hustle. The auxiliary bay was a maze of dust-covered equipment and abandoned cargo containers. The escape pod sat in the center like a metal egg, its hull scarred but intact. Marcus threw open the access panel and began frantically checking systems, while Zixara worked to clear the launch tube of debris. Her enhanced strength made quick work of the twisted metal and accumulated junk that blocked their path. "Power couplings fried," Marcus muttered, ripping out a blackened component. "I can bypass it, but I'll need to reroute through the secondary manifold. That will reduce your range by 60%. Better than 0%. Marcus's hands were steady despite the time pressure. "Besides, I just need to get far enough away to disappear into the asteroid field." Zixara found herself admiring his calm focus under pressure. Another Imperial stereotype about humans proved wrong. They were not the panicking, emotional creatures her people believed them to be. At least, this one wasn't. "Why are you helping me?" Marcus asked as he worked. "Your people are coming. You could just turn me over to them." Zixara paused in her debris clearing. The question had occurred to her as well. By all logic, she should either eliminate Marcus herself or hand him over to the patrol ships. It would be the efficient solution, the one that aligned with her training and conditioning. "I do not know," she admitted. "Perhaps because you offered me coffee. Perhaps because you see me as a person rather than a weapon. Perhaps because I have never had a friend before." Marcus looked up from his work, surprise and something warmer flickering across his face. "Friends, huh? I like the sound of that." The proximity alarm sounded again, closer this time. 5 minutes until the patrol ships reached scanning range. Marcus sealed the power coupling and began the pod's startup sequence. Lights flickered on throughout the small craft as systems came online one by one. Navigation's green, life support stable, engines. "Well, it's functional," Marcus reported. "Not pretty, but it'll get me out of here." Zixara stepped back as the pod's door slid open. "Where will you go?" "Deeper into the rim territories. There are plenty of dead stations out there that need someone to keep them company." Marcus paused at the threshold. "What about you? What will you tell your people?" "That I found evidence of rebel activity but no active threats. That the station has been thoroughly searched and cleared." She met his eyes. "It will not be entirely false." Marcus smiled. "Thanks for the coffee break, Zixara. And for showing me that even the scariest people in the galaxy can be good company. Thank you for teaching me that fear is not the only response to meeting something different." The patrol ships appeared on the scanner, their approach vectors closing fast. Marcus climbed into the pod and sealed the door. Through the porthole, he gave Zixara a thumbs up that she had seen humans use to indicate success or approval. The launch was smooth and silent. The pod slipped away from the station just as the Netherian vessels came within sensor range, lost among the drifting asteroids and debris that filled the local space. Zixara watched until she could no longer distinguish it from the background. Radiation. When the patrol ships docked and her fellow Void Stalkers came aboard, they found her standing in the engineering bay, her report already prepared. The station was empty, she told them. Nothing but ghosts and broken machinery. They believed her, of course. Why would Zixara of the Void lie about something so trivial? As the ships departed, Zixara remained behind to complete her investigation. She stood in the kitchen where she had shared coffee with a human who wasn't afraid of her, who had seen past her reputation to something resembling a person underneath. For the first time in her existence, Zixara understood what it meant to miss someone. And somewhere in the asteroid field, Marcus Reed powered up his emergency beacon and began broadcasting a message on an old rebel frequency. "Station engineer looking for work. References available upon request. Warning, may have made friends with impossible people." He was smiling as he sent it.